Hey everybody, Juan Morales here, and in today's episode we're going to cover a concept that I like to call what do you do when you win? And this is a very powerful concept because it allows you to really keep focused on what you should be focused on so you can get that, especially when we're an entrepreneur and you're going through the experience of what entrepreneurship really means. I was talking to a client a couple of days ago, and he was telling me the story of how the night before they had gone out and had this amazing party with all the people in his company and all the things that he was doing. And, he was feeling high in the sky. He got this massive sale. He did this amazing deal. But then immediately, this was like 3 days after he had done this, I could sense that he had this feeling of complacency. He didn't have the hustle that had taken him to where he had been before. He just wasn't there anymore. It was like you're efforting the whole time, you're pushing yourself the whole time to get to that pinnacle, to get to that sale, to get to that deal, to get to that moment. And once you're there, immediately you shift what you're doing because now you're celebrating. And now you became complacent. And now you really got into the whole thing of, oh, this was such a amazing thing. And I used to do the same thing myself. I mean, not a day would go by when something good happened to me. And let's say I would close a client or close a deal or do any kind of positive deal surrounding thing that you can think of. I would celebrate. And that celebration usually involved a little bit of time off, a little bit of distraction, whatever you want to call that. But now all of a sudden, what got you there, the hard work, the ethics that you were doing, the efforting that you were putting in, everything else that you put in, now all of a sudden we're letting the foot off the gas. And when we let the foot off the gas, what happens? We revert back to where we used to be. Okay? So that got me thinking, and I realized that one of the most important things to always consider is, what do we do when we win? How do we behave when we achieve that thing that we're looking for? Let's say that it is getting that next sale, that next deal, that next client. What happens when that client comes in? Now, the client's going to come in, and maybe you close that deal. Now, there's two ways to go about it, right? One of them is to celebrate and to think that now you solved some of your problems, you solved some of your issues, you solved some of the financial difficulties that you may have been struggling with at the time, but then you let your foot off the gas. Another way to go about it, the way I actually recommend that you go about it, is that you understand that it's a win, you value it as a win, but you understand that that is the norm for you, that is the default for you, that is what should be happening all the time for you. So it's not a surprise, it's not something that you should be super celebrating or overly celebrating. It's just, this is normal. Instead of making it this highlight thing, and like if it was New Year's Eve or something like that, it's just a Tuesday. And you have to think like that, not in the terms of not taking the win and understanding that you are winning, but you also have to understand that you have to discipline that part of yourself that wants to start celebrating and then go back to being lazy and then go back to not doing things the right way or just letting your foot off the gas. Instead, what you should do at that moment is double down on what you've already done. Double down on what you're doing so it keeps that momentum going. It reminds me of a story that I heard from Emmitt Smith, the famous Dallas Cowboys running back, one of my favorite players of all time. The leading rusher in the NFL, all-time leading rusher in the NFL, I should say. Because every time that he would get to the end zone, and I think he scored like 125 touchdowns or something like that throughout his whole career. And one of the things that he did is that every time that he would get to the end zone, he would literally just kneel down, get back up, point to the sky, and then go back to the sideline. And at one point, someone asked him, because there's all these NFL players out there that showboat, especially nowadays, right, where the rules changed a little bit so people celebrate a lot more and they do coordinated celebrations and all that stuff. But back in that time, the person who scored the touchdown would usually celebrate a little before going back to the sideline. Now, someone asked Emmitt, why do you do that? And he said that his dad had taught him a very important lesson. And the lesson was that when he got there, he should act like he had already been there before, that it wasn't a surprise that he was there. He said, act as if you've been there, and you will be there a whole lot more. And that's really the essence of this message. The reason I wanted to share this with you is because the next time something good happens, the next time a win happens for you, don't start celebrating and letting your foot off the gas, or just thinking that, hey, now I don't have to hustle as hard as I did before. Double down. All this means is that win shows that whatever you're doing is actually working. And now that should give you more confidence to do even more. Think about this in your own life. How many times have you started with something where at the beginning, every little thing that you did, you felt extremely proud of, and you told everybody else that you had done it? Let's say you're starting out in a business, and the first time you get the first client, your wife's going to know about it. Your friends are probably going to know about it, especially the ones that are close enough that they've been with you throughout the trials and tribulations of starting off a new business. But the moment that you get that first client, you celebrate all those things, and you celebrate them because they are, let's say, smaller things. At the time, they're huge, but over time, let's say that 3 months have passed, and now you have tons of clients, and you're getting clients on a regular basis. Let me ask you, when you're getting clients on a regular basis, do you celebrate all those clients in the same way? Or does it just feel like it's natural, right? Like, why would anything be surprising now if I am getting 5, 10 clients a week? So why would I make a big fuss about getting any one of them? And that's the thinking that goes into doing all of this. What I really want you to figure out is how you, when you get something good, when you get that contract, when you get that client, when you get that deal, when you get that sale, behave as though that's expected. It's not that you got to anywhere because there's nowhere to get to. That's expected, okay? That's just proof that whatever you're trying is actually working. And it's just more indication that you should double down on the efforts because it's working. So now you can make it work more and more and more. And that's a different way of getting excited about what you're doing, because instead of saying, oh, good, now I don't have that financial pressure I had before, or, oh, good, now I'm getting XYZ benefit from whatever just happened. And then that allows me to be lazy again, or that allows me to just not put so much pressure on myself. That's completely the wrong mental frame to come at it from. The right mental frame to come at that whole situation from is the idea that you are expected to do that all the time. That's what success looks like, and it's a habit. It's a thing that just keeps happening, and you just keep on that train until you get to that level where there are the sales coming in every day, where all these things happening all the time. But until you get to that point, don't make a big fuss from those first wins. Take them as a win, but take the win not as a thing where now you can be complacent, or now you can let your foot off the gas, or now you can play out, or even spend that money on stuff that you don't even need just because you're happy that you finally got something to work. Flip that around and make it so that, hey, you're used to this. Of course it worked. It's what it's supposed to happen. Of course I got that deal. It's what's supposed to happen. Let me do it again and again and again and again. And pretty much what you'll develop is a resilience and a drive and a discipline so that you're always on point. No matter whether you win or lose, you're always on point. Because what's going to happen is that's going to keep you improving. That's going to keep you allowing you to become better every day at what you do, because you're never letting your foot off the gas. Now, don't misunderstand me, and don't think that I'm saying that you don't need time to renew yourself. You do, okay? And I actually advise that whenever it's time to renew, you do like a digital detox and get completely out and dedicate that time to yourself to get better at what it is that you do. But it's super important to understand that when you're on this, and when you're on your sales efforts, when you're on the marketing efforts, when you're on an entrepreneurial effort, you can't let your foot off the gas. If you do let your foot off the gas, it must be deliberately. It must be something that you decided that for X amount of days you're going to take a time off and you're going to renew. But that's very deliberate. It's not the same when it's like, hey, we landed the first client and hey, let's everybody go out to the bar and have some drinks and just party for a while and do all these things. Because guess what? All that does is it negates everything that you did with discipline before that led you to getting that client, that led you to getting that deal. You're negating it because you changed. Because now, because you got that taste of success, you treat it as if it's a New Year's Eve event. Instead of hey, this is Tuesday. Who cares, right? Yeah, I care. I mean, obviously I care, and you should always care, and you should always take the delivery of the win and take it as a win. But that whole thing of letting your foot off the gas, because now you can be lazier, because now you don't have to effort that much, that's the part of you that comes in and does the sabotage. That's the part of you that comes in and keeps you stuck where you are. Instead, just focus on really operating from the idea that the people that are best suited to succeed are the ones that constantly think of success as the norm. Why would I think that it was going to fail? No matter how many times in the past I failed, I still have to keep thinking that it's going to work. And when it does work, all it does is prove that it works. It's not this thing of like, oh, it's a miracle. It's not. Think about it. If you grab those small achievements or those achievements that you create, take the delivery of the win, but don't take your foot off the gas. Keep fighting. When you got one sale, that's the best time to get that second one. And when you got that second one, that's the best time to get that third one. And so on and so forth. And when all those things line up in your favor, all of a sudden you have a chain of sales. Your success is compounding. You're building up and building up until you become so powerful, so strong, and so disciplined in your approach that everything that you're doing just keeps going faster and faster and faster and better. And as long as you keep allowing yourself time to deliberately renew what you're doing, you can keep going with this forever. That, my friends, is a true success principle. So remember, don't let your foot off the gas. Winning is an expected experience for you. And when you behave like that, you'll see a lot more of it. This is Juan signing out. I'll see you guys on the next one.